Welcome back to another game of GP Damascus. For this game, we have Splashcat versus the Flying Pinata. Splashcat is on 5-color via Dreamsight. It seems like they've gotten a starting hand that has a removal spell and a void portal, and recall down Aeon, so Splashcat is pretty good turn 2 into turn 3 lined up. And meanwhile, Flying Pinata is on EHS burn, so it's a mono red burn deck that's kind of splashing green and white for EHS and Sword and Board. So this matchup will be interesting because the game basically comes down to whether Splashcat can stabilize or not. Flying Pinata can try to get some extra reach out of EHS. So Splashcat gets to play turn 2 Needless Atrocities, which deals with Flying Pinata's turn 1 creature. Splashcat draws another Needless Atrocities. So yeah, that's quite good. Flying Pinata is okay. Prix gets to play Cult Axlinger turn 2 and swing with a 3/3 because they do the shock fetch into Painland thing with Cult Axlinger. Actually, did they have Cult Axlinger on turn 1? I wonder why they didn't go for that turn 1 Cult Axlinger play. I guess they wanted to play Enraptured Countess first to bait out removal or something. Although I feel like you'd rather get Cult Axlinger and remove it because Enraptured Countess can represent an extra spell later in the game once you have 3 mana. Splashcat going to play Needless Atrocity again. So yeah, they'd rather just play a removal spell now and instead of playing Recall Forgotten Aeons on 3. But I guess since they don't actually have an extra land in hand, they might whiff the extra land on Recall Forgotten Aeons, and that'd be really bad. So they're just gonna do the safe play, but draw a second land. They get to play New Divide tapped because they don't need to play a 3 mana spell on turn 3, so it worked out pretty well for them. Flying Pinata is just going to round out their burn spells now, I guess. Yeah. And Splashcat's down to 6, which is kind of dangerous because, well, do they have another removal spell? Because with 3 mana, Flying Pinata can Enraptured Countess and use its tail to bring back a burn spell, so Splashcat's basically on a virtual 3 life, and they don't draw a removal spell. But they do draw Cosmic Sinkhole, so Sinkhole will counter whatever Flying Pinata tries to play off Enraptured Countess. But then that means Splashcat's still getting whacked for 2 because of the Prowess trigger. And Splashcat fetches. So now they're down to 5 life. And what's their plan here? Go into Void Portal, and then transmute to Cosmic Sinkhole. Oh, and they fetch a 1 mana removal spell. Yeah, that's pretty good. So that deals with the Enraptured Countess, which in addition to just killing the creature, also prevents Flying Pinata from using the tail. So that's why I mentioned that I feel like Flying Pinata should have turn 1 to Cult Axlinger because that would have gone in under Splashcat's sorcery speed removal. That would mean Splashcat's at, well, yeah, Splashcat only had sorcery speed removal, so that means Splashcat would be at 3 less life right now. Either way, Flying Pinata top deck a Lava Spike and hits Splashcat in the face for 3. And Splashcat, they have Void Portal, so they can just find life gain. And I think they do have a mainboard copy of Stand Unassailable, right? Or I guess even if they don't, they can just Dreamsight well and shuffle in the Stand Unassailable from their sideboard and then use Void Portal to discard a 2 mana spell and fetch it out. I think that's probably going to seal the game. And yeah, Splashcat taking no chances and shuffling in 3 Stand Unassailable from their sideboard. I think, yeah, the game probably would have gone very differently if Flying Pinata did do the turn 1 Cult Axlinger, because I think that might have just been enough to win there. But instead, Splashcat is going to be able to stabilize on 2 life, or I guess stabilize after going down to 2 life by playing Stand Unassailable and undoing 3 burn spells worth of progress. No, Splashcat has land and has cards in hand, so they're definitely going to stabilize. Flying Pinata fetching now. Actually, maybe an EHS off the top would be enough to save Flying Pinata. Well, they draw land, so yeah, that's not what they need. Also, an EHS off the top, what would Flying Pinata been able to hit with off that? I don't really think even an EHS off the top would be enough to save them. Because no, Splashcat gets to... Or do they have the 2 mana spell in hand? Oh, no, they don't. Oh, so they can't Void Portal for another Stand Unassailable right now, but they're certainly not going to die this turn, and next turn they get to coalesce Stand Unassailable, and yeah, I don't think Flying Pinata can do that much damage when they're already out of fuel. The Splashcat plays Recall Forgotten Aeons, get some land into play for next turn, and they play another Void Portal. Or no, they're gonna transmute the Void Portal. What 3-mana spell are they fetching here? Flare Blitz. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. It gains life and also puts Flying Pinata on the clock. Flying Pinata fetching before draw. They don't really have any utility lands to fetch, right? Okay, so Find Greater Purpose allows them to get some more cards. And Splashcat is tapped out, so Flying Pinata can try to do stuff. I mean, not exactly sure if it'll be useful or not, but they definitely can try. And they hit the Storm Shaper on land, so yeah, not what they need. Hitting EHS there would have been good, because like if you hit EHS plus another card, maybe you can play down 3 things and then force Splashcat to do something, but Splashcat has already stabilized, so they're not really gonna die to burn, at least at this point. I think Splashcat can just call a standalone Sable right now, and then they don't really have to think that hard. They're gonna play Glitch. Okay, I guess, is that, well, they play Glitch, and then I guess they can -3 to hit Flying Pinata in the face for a bunch of damage and end the game faster. They're not exactly in danger of anything. Actually, with Storm Shaper add up in play, maybe Flying Pinata top stack EHS and then plays EHS and gets Find Greater Purpose, which finds some other spell, then maybe build enough prowess to actually threaten Splashcat's life total again. But Splashcat's going to plus the Glitch to make some blockers for Storm Shaper, and then they're going to transmute this Pithwelt or Cursed Glance to stop whatever Flying Pinata can try to do to get back into the game. Flying Pinata draws People of Lightning, so it's not EHS, so it's not going to work here. I think Splashcat's actually pretty close to lethal. Well, Flying Pinata already realizes that they lost, so they're just going to concede here. And they mentioned that they have drawn a bunch of lands, so a bit unfortunate for them, I guess. So for sideboarding, Flying Pinata, well, they have Curse of Bleeding. Actually, how's their mana? I guess, yeah, they're kind of just playing 4 colors mostly, but just splashing for stuff. But since I guess they're playing Cult Axler, they're already playing the Shock Fetch mana base, so they have a decent amount of mana fixing. They have Curse of Bleeding to prevent the life gain from working, and then I think that's mostly it. I don't think if Swear it really kills enough to be important. And then on Splashcat's side, they're probably bringing in all the standalone saleables, and then probably negate 2, and then anti-magic. Now, do they want counter spells against burn? I mean, they're kind of useful, but at the same time, all that does is trade 1 for 1 with the burn spells. I guess as a Dreamsight deck, sideboarding kind of matters less because you have so many cards, you're way less likely to draw your sideboard cards, but you definitely still bring in the 3 standalone saleables and then probably some other counter spells. So this game 2, Flying Pinata gets a hand that has 2 Curse of Bleedings, and they're going to keep a 1-lander. I guess they're just really hoping to draw a land. I mean, even if they don't draw a land, they still have plenty of plays because the rest of their hand is 1-drop creatures. They don't have any burn though, so that is a bit concerning because they have no way to trigger the prowess creatures. And Splashcat has a hand with like an Exunt and a Tendril Snare, so those spells are going to deal with Flying Pinata's early creatures. And they have Forgotten Lessons to fetch Dreamsight well, and then Conjure Realities to just finish off the game. I think Splashcat's actually pretty well positioned here. Or assuming, well, they can do the removal curve, but if Flying Pinata gets down Curse of Bleeding, then Splashcat can just Pithwelt it, so not a big problem. I think Splashcat is just super favored with this hand right now. Flying Pinata, okay, they do draw a mountain, so they get to play turn 2 Curse of Bleeding, but they're not going to do that, they're just going to play out the creatures, which is probably a good idea, because Splashcat isn't going to start playing standalone sables until they deal with the board. So Tendril Snare on the Entrap Trip Countess. The Splashcat can take better advantage of the mana. So Flying Pinata draws in their land, and that's not very good because they already have enough lands from the Tendril Snare. So yeah, Curse of Bleeding goes on to Splashcat, and Flying Pinata swings in for 3. So Curse of Bleeding is sort of annoying for Splashcat because that means they need to Pithwelt it before they can start gaining life. But unfortunately, Flying Pinata doesn't have that many burn spells in hand. And Curse of Bleeding would be a lot better if Flying Pinata had more pressure, but they don't really have pressure. I guess I can top deck a burn spell, then that's actually kind of dangerous because now Flying Pinata is swinging in for 4 plus whatever the burn spell is doing, and then Splashcat can't really do much this turn. Well, they can conjure realities for something, but they need to kill the Cursive Fleeing before they can gain life. I think Splashcat might actually be in trouble. Well, assuming Flying Peanut draws something relevant next turn. I mean, even if Splashcat kills the Cursive Bleeding, Flying Peanut has another one, and they can actually just hold on to this. Well, no, Cursive Bleeding doesn't have Flash anymore, so never mind, but Splashcat's going to play Forgotten Lessons. Alright, they only have 3 mana because they can't really afford to shock themselves right now. They're going to play Forgotten Lessons, fetching... Well, they're not going to fetch Dreamsight well, they're going to fetch Solar Flare instead. Or, I mean, no, they're definitely fetching Dreamsight well, right? Solar Flare isn't gaining life right now with Cursive bleeding out. Well, I guess Splashcat can also just fetch some other removal spell. Or Ignition Ritual. Isn't that a bit risky? Oh, I guess they're using Forgotten Lessons to out Ignition Ritual from their deck. And they're going to put Solar Flare into hand. Okay, so I guess next turn they're planning on using Pistol and then Solar Flare. And then, yes, Stormwind Raven comes off the Prophecy, so that's a blocker for Flying Peanut's creatures, and Flying Peanut draws another land, so yeah, not very good for them. I think they're getting just really unlucky land draws this game. So they play another Curse of Bleeding, and that's actually a pretty big problem for Splashcat, because that means a single Pitfall doesn't re-enable Solar Flare's life gain. And Flying Peanut swings for 2. I think Splashcat does not chump with Stormwind Raven. I feel like that's a bit risky. I mean, Splashcat's just dead if Flying Peanut tops like a burn spell, right? So Splashcat can conjure with eyes now. But I don't think there's really... Well, since 2 Cursive Bleed is in play, Splashcat doesn't really have any way to gain life. They do have ways to wipe a bunch of enchantments off the board, but it costs way too much mana currently. So Splashcat's going to play their Shockland Fetch, or Shock Fetch tapped, and they're going to conjure realities. So let's see what they find. Okay, they're going to get Singularity's Grasp, and I guess that's what they're planning to do next turn, to wipe all the Cursive Bleedings and then start gaining life again. And then they're going to bound L off the conjure realities, mostly as a blocker, I guess. But also gets them a land for next turn, or a land that doesn't damage them. If they survive whatever Flying Peanut draws this turn, thinking Flying Peanut's luck, they might just draw another land, and okay, yeah, they draw another land. That's really unfortunate. And now I think Splashcat can get back into the game, because now they get to play Singularity's Grasp for 2. That costs 4 mana, and they have 6 mana this turn. So yeah, they can Singularity's Grasp and then also Solar Flare after that. Splashcat isn't going to attack first. I feel like that's not too bad, because Splashcat isn't going to win by racing, but it is some missed damage. Now they have Solar Flare up for whatever Flying Peanut draws. The Flying Peanut is probably really hoping to top deck EHS here, but they get Pagan Archer instead. Did Flying Peanut just draw no spells this game? Ouch. Yeah, that's unfortunate. Flying Peanut isn't even going to play out their creature here. They're probably waiting to save it with some more spells so that they can play down Pagan Archer, and if it gets killed instantly, then they can still do more damage. But now the Flying Peanut doesn't have anything to do. Splashcat gets out Prix to start stabilizing. Splashcat passes holding up some counter spells in the Solar Flare. Flying Peanut finally draws a spell. Right now I guess they can't play down Pagan Archer, but they're just going to hold. Wonder why they're holding Pagan Archer though. Well, here Splashcat draws Glitch. I don't think they're going to play it though, because that means their counters go down. Well, I guess yeah, they can't play it and hold up either Solar Flare or a counter spell. Or no, Cosmic Sinkhole doesn't really counter anything now because Flying Peanut has too many lands. And they're going to draw with Glitch. And then Splashcat passes holding up stuff. Flying Peanut draws another sword and board. Actually, yeah, I guess holding Pagan Archer actually did do... Wait, do they have lethal? So if Splashcat tries to remove Pagan Archer, Flying Peanut swords and boards it oh, they can only sword and board it once because they don't have enough white mana. Okay, Splashcat going for end of turn Solar Flare on the Pagan Archer. And Flying Peanut responding in kind with 2 sword and boards. Or, oh yeah, they can play sword and board fused. Wait, is this enough for lethal? Well, yeah, I guess it is, right? Wait, no, that means Pagan Archer survives the Solar Flare, so now that's wasted damage. Wait, so one of the headed plays that Blind Pan can do is sword and board their own Pagan Archer so that it dies to Solar Flare plus sword and board. Wait, did they just miss lethal? So if they sword and boarded the Pagan Archer, then Splashcat would be at 3, and then Solar Flare gains them 3, so they'll be at 6, and then sword and board kills the Pagan Archer, so that's 5, so then Splashcat will be at 1 afterwards. So no, Flying Piano didn't miss lethal, they weren't going to do lethal anyways. I think their game's probably over. I'm unfortunate that Flying Piano just didn't draw any burn spells that game. And actually, if Splashcat was just 1 life lower, then the sword and board play would have worked, where Flying Piano plays the first sword and board fuse, gets Pagan Archer the buff, and hits Splashcat in the face, and then plays the second sword and board targeting the Pagan Archer to kill it after Solar Flare damage. But yeah, Flying Piano's deck just didn't do what it needed to do. Those games, they really needed to draw either more burn spells or an EHS, because like EHS is one of the main additions to Flying Piano's deck over normal burn decks.